Hail to thee, blithe spirit, bird thou never wert, that from heaven or near it pourest thy full heart in profuse strains of unpremeditated art. Higher still and higher from the earth thou springest like a cloud of fire. The blue deep thou wingest, and singing still dost soar, and soaring ever singest. In the golden lightning of the sunken sun, over which clouds are brightening, thou dost float and run, like an unbodied joy whose race is just begun. The pale purple even melts around thy flight, like a star of heaven in the broad daylight. Thou art unseen, but yet I hear thy shrill delight, keen as are the arrows of that silver sphere, whose intense lamp narrows in the white dawn clear, until we hardly see, we feel that it is there. All the earth and air with thy voices loud, as when night is bare from one lonely cloud. The moon rains out her beams, and heaven is overflowed. What thou art we know not, what is most like thee. From rainbow clouds there flow not drops so bright to see, as from thy presence showers a rain of melody. Like a poet hidden in the light of thought, singing hymns unbiding, till the world is wrought to sympathy with hopes and fears it heeded not, like a high-born maiden in a palace tower, soothing her love-laden soul in secret hour, with music sweet as love, which overflows her bower, like a glowworm golden in a dell of dew, scattering unbeholden its aerial hue, among the flowers and grass which screen it from the view, like a rose embowered in its own green leaves, by warm winds deflowered, till the scent it gives makes faint with too much sweet those heavy winged leaves. Sound of vernal showers on the twinkling grass, rain awakened flowers, all that ever was. Joyous and clear and fresh thy music doth surpass. Teach us, sprite or bird, what sweet thoughts are thine. I have never heard praise of love or wine, that panted forth a flood of rapture so divine. Chorus, hymeneal, or triumphal chaunt, matched with thine would be all but an empty vaunt, a thing wherein we feel there is some hidden want. What objects are the fountains of thy happy strain? What fields or waves or mountains? What shapes of sky or plain? What love of thine own kind? What ignorance of pain? With thy clear, keen joyance, languor cannot be. Shadow of annoyance never came near thee. Thou lovest, but never knew love's sad satiety. Waking or asleep, thou of death must deem things more true and deep than we mortals dream. Or how could thy notes flow in such a crystal stream? We look before and after, and pine for what is not. Our sincerest laughter with some pain is fraught. Our sweetest songs are those that tell of saddest thought. Yet if we could scorn hate and pride and fear, if we were things born not to shed a tear, I know not how thy joy we ever should come near, better than all measures of delightful sound, better than all treasures that in books are found. Thy skill to poet were, thou scorner of the ground, teach me half the gladness that thy brain must know. Such harmonious madness from my lips would flow. The world should listen then as I am listening now.
Okay. So Shelley, unlike other romantic poets, I feel looks at beauty as something that can change people and actually make them better. And in this poem, he's kind of talking about that, and then he goes into more thinking about, because he's talking about an actual living bird as beauty. And he starts thinking about, wait, well, if I think of beauty as changing living things for the good, then does the bird also see beauty and think of like it being good in himself? And he even talks about that, like, thou of death must deem. So the bird must think about bad things, even though it's beautiful and good. Like,
yeah. It just lives a simpler life because it's a bird.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I finds beauty in that.
Yes. I think he takes a different approach to beauty than some of the other romantic poets, because he kind of like also thinks about the fact that like in order to have beauty you have to have like darkness too. So he like he adds a new light to it.
I'd like to see a poem where he talks about it for like a beautiful woman and like what the beautiful woman thinks of herself. Is she better because she's beautiful, or
Yeah.
what that's like?
Yeah, I feel like that was kind of like what he was getting at, just more like subtle.
Mhm.
He was using the bird as a symbol for beauty.
Yeah, yeah.
I also think so. If you kind of like look at the tone shifts, I think it ties into that really well. He starts out with like admiring the bird, and it's really based off of the bird's beauty, and you see it very like surface level, and he's just admiring how beautiful this is and like how it's a part of nature. And then he kind of starts questioning it, and he's thinking like, well, wait a second, like, and he starts thinking about it and questioning aspects of the bird. And then he kind of turns into this third tone shift where his questions kind of made him realize, like, it gets a little bit darker but also more realistic at the same time. And he's kind of looking at how, like, in order to have beauty, you also have to have not beautiful things so that you can appreciate that beauty. And that's kind of his ultimate conclusion. And so I think by using all like the three tone shifts, he really like makes it more prominent that you have to realize that you have to have both, or else you don't have either one. So I think that was really smart of him to use that. And then in the end, you still kind of feel this like happiness because the bird is really beautiful, but it's also very like realistic, and you kind of have this sense of like bringing it back down to being like, okay, yes, this is super beautiful, but I have to get through the bad stuff to see the really pretty stuff.
Yeah, it shows just how relatable the bird can actually be, and when he is admiring the bird, he really emphasizes and compares it to like other aspects of nature that are beautiful, and even to poets like, you know, himself. And so by emphasizing the bird's beauty, it really shows that it really emphasizes his own conclusion towards the end. And with the conclusion, the main idea is basically like, oh, one may seem like beautiful and carefree and pure. However, one cannot truly experience that joy without experience anguish and pain. Because without the pain of our lives and without all the anguish and suffering, we wouldn't truly be able to embrace the happy parts of our lives, which is basically what the poet is emphasizing, because he goes into questioning how the bird seems so carefree and flying up high as if it has no worries. But when he brings it back down to earth with that kind of darker shift of tone and more realistic, he allows the audience to see that without the pain, we can't appreciate beauty, and how the bird itself has to be thinking about death or any other negative input.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really have to have one to appreciate the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say the tone is like overall kind of realistically uplifting, because it is uplifting and talking about beauty, but it's a very realistic approach. It's not like unrealistic.
I think he really says that when he says, "Yet if we could scorn hate and pride and fear, if we were things born not to shed a tear." So like he's saying we could scorn these things, but then we wouldn't have this beauty inside of ourselves and the goodness that we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even the quote, "Our sweetest songs of those are those that tell of saddest thought," which is basically like bringing out the sad, but in a joyful kind of way.
Yeah. I feel like he really encaptured life well with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Good job, team.